as I figure out. Because I always have a super whammadine presentation to share with you guys. And make this bigger. All right, can you guys see the slides?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, that's over there. So I think I can go off here. Okay, welcome everybody. This is another edition of the Investor Savvy Agent training series. And today I'm going to be sharing with you guys the tools that I use as a real estate agent that we have access to, and some free tools that I use that help me analyze my own deals, analyze deals for clients, find deals. It's pretty amazing the amount of tools that are out there. That we can use, and we may not even realize that we have access to them. So I'm Anna Bialek. If this is the first time you're seeing me and joining me, I became a real estate agent about 4 years ago. I worked for the Department of Navy before that, decided I didn't want to do that anymore. So I became an agent, loved being an agent, but realized I was still working for money and I did not want to keep working for money. I wanted to work only if I had to. So I started real estate investing so I could start building a portfolio of properties that will at some point make it so my husband and I can quit working when we have to and only when we want to. And today we're going to be looking at tools for that we have access to as agents. A lot of people don't realize that they're there. It helps you look smarter in front of your clients. It helps you find more opportunities. It helps you analyze deals faster. A lot of this is AI based, and it's amazing what AI can do for us. And most of these tools are either low cost or no cost to us as agents. So let's see. Did the slide change for you guys? Or is it still on the front slide?
Nope, it changed.
Okay, cool. I was like, if you see my screen, my monitor layout, you'd be very impressed, except it's confusing to me sometimes when I have so many things up. So why does this matter to us? Like, why does it matter to be able to access all these tools? And like I said, investors think differently than the traditional buyer. They ask different kinds of questions. Investors aren't like always as worried about what school, they care more about like what are the rental rates in the area. If I were to update this, what's the ARV? What's the after repair value? What can this sell for? What are the regulations in this particular county or city as far as the number of people that can live in a unit? Those are the kinds of things that investors will be asking you. And it's not the traditional questions that a lot of us get from the standard buyer. Most buyers don't really care how many people can live in the same, unrelated parties can live in the same house. These tools also help you move faster and smarter than you would traditionally, because a lot of these things, some of these tools are able to capture a lot of information and data for you that in the past you may have had to manually go and find in public records that would have taken you a lot longer to do. And once you figure out how to use these tools and use them well, it's going to create more trust with the consumers that you're working with. It'll generate more deals for you, whether it's you picking up deals for yourself to build wealth or working with real estate investors. Or even I've said before, if you haven't seen past trainings, you can go check them out at the FYR University on YouTube. Sometimes we can start training our buyers that aren't necessarily investor minded to start thinking like investors, or our sellers. Like a lot of sellers are like, I have to move. I feel like I need to sell my house because that's what people traditionally do. But you might be able to provide them different options as to what they can do with their house. And that creates a whole wealth of opportunities, with referrals. And it also builds a different kind of trust because they realize you're not just out to sell their house or buy them a house. They're not just a transaction. You're genuinely a trusted advisor, like financial and wealth building advisor for them. All right. So I'm not going to be able to see everyone. So if you want to drop it in the chat or unmute yourself, I'm curious to see how many of you guys, like what kinds of tools are you guys currently using that you would consider, I'll say investor friendly, things that you use to analyze deals. Is there anybody on the call that's using tools right now to do investor type analysis or searches? Feel free to unmute yourself because I can't see the comments.
Just like tools tools from the county government, property records, tax records. Look at, sometimes I just use MLS or Zillow to look at rental rates in the area, comparable property values. Sometimes, looking at um, the sale records for the house just to see, for a particular property, how far, how much are they into it. Um, but those are all pretty just sort of basic things. So no
Yep.
fun AI stuff.
Well, at least you've got the basics down. Some people don't realize it. We'll talk about that in the next slide, that even with the MLS, there's tools in there that you can tweak and utilize to look for investment properties. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. So I'm not sitting here talking to myself. So we're gonna so we're gonna go ahead and jump in, and we're gonna start with the first tool, which you mentioned, is the MLS. It is a super powerful tool. A lot of us, we use it every day. Well, we should be using it every day. When you know how to use it for investing, you can do, of course, the regular home searches. Like you mentioned, you can go in and do rental comps to estimate rents. I do that a lot, and sometimes even before I go in for a listing presentation, if I know that they have a certain amount of equity in the property and maybe they don't need to sell the home for the purchase of their next home, I'll go in with the rental comps and I'll have that discussion with the potential client about whether or not, they've considered keeping it as a rental, and that these are the estimated amounts they could potentially get. You can find underpriced homes when you set up the searches. This is as simple as looking up for days on market and looking at the price drops. You can set up filters in your MLS to go ahead and take a look and see like what houses have been sitting on the market for over 30 days. If you've been an agent for a longer period of time, so I've heard, because I acknowledge I've only done this for 4 years, if it was, 30 days, that wasn't super crazy. People weren't like chomping at the bit. They weren't like, oh my gosh, this house there's something wrong with it. But in the last 4 to 5 years, houses were selling like within 2 weeks. And now if it's past 2 weeks, I think the mentality might be shifting a little bit, but I still see a lot of consumers that are like, if it's been sitting for 2 or 3 weeks, there must be something wrong with it. And sellers start to get antsy. They're like, why is my house still sitting? Like my neighbor's house sold in like 3 days, like a year ago. So looking for setting up filters in the MLS for looking for longer days on market and checking for price drops. That's a good way to identify properties that are potential for your investor clients or for you to pick up as an investment. And the other thing that some people don't realize is and this is with Bright MLS specifically, because that's what I use, you can set up custom searches for investors. So you can actually add a field in Bright MLS that has like keyword searches. I use the wildcard function, which in Bright is the little star. I guess that's an asterisk. And you can put in terms like as is, investor special, repairs needed, just key terms like that you would see in a lot of listings for homes, like needs TLC. You can put those terms in there and it will essentially do a search, and you can save that search so that you can get a report or like get an email to you from Bright MLS that anytime a property pops up with those keywords, as soon as it pops up, you can get an email. And I have sorry, I was cheering at the Marine Corps Marathon yesterday, so I sound like a prepubescent girl at the moment. Sorry. I have investor friends that they got their license specifically to be real estate investors, and they use that function to be the first person to jump on deals that say they're investor friendly, being sold as is. You can put in keywords like probate. And a lot of people don't realize that is a function in Bright MLS specifically that you can add in that box as a filter and put in those keywords so that you get those immediately. The next tool that I use a lot, and it's similar to Bright MLS, this one is free. MLS obviously is only available to agents. Rentcast.io is available to everyone, and this isn't tied specifically just to your market. Whereas Bright MLS, for us, we can only search certain markets that we have access to in that MLS. Rentcast basically provides rental data for any market that you type in. You put in an address and it will pull up recent rentals and it'll give you an estimate for what rental rates are in that specific area. So if you yourself are an investor that's looking out of state, I personally invest in other places, like Ohio, North Carolina, and further down in Southern Virginia, where Bright MLS doesn't go to. I use Rentcast as a tool. It's free. There is a paid version that I think gets you a little bit more, but the free version works just fine. It'll pull up the estimated rental amounts, and it'll give you what rental listings it used as the basis for that estimate. And so you can go back and actually pull up those rental listings and say Zillow or some other platform and check the pictures and see how close of a rental comparison it is to your property. So it does take a little bit of legwork, but I love using Rentcast. Does someone have a question?
Yeah, quick question. That's just exclusively long-term rental rates, right? It's not.
Correct. This is exclusively long-term rental rates. For shorter term rental rates, there's websites like AirDNA if you wanted to see rental rates for short-term rentals. And then these aren't in the slides, so take notes. So there's AirDNA, and then there's Furnished Finder is the website where a lot of people post midterm rentals, furnished midterm rentals. And within Furnished Finder, they have free tools that you can go in, like under resources, and it'll tell you what the rental rates are in the area. Like you put in a certain city or like where you want to look for a specific for rental information, and it'll tell you how many units are in the area, how many people have searched for rentals in that area, whether they're single family homes, rent by the rooms, and it'll tell you like price points. So I use Furnished Finder for midterm rentals and AirDNA for short-term rentals. Does that help?
Yeah, that's basically what I do now. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything on if there's something that had all of them in one place, that would be a great tool.
That would be. Maybe we need to chat and figure out how to get someone to wait, if you went. I just came back from my conference with my brokerage, and they just told us about a website that we can go to create, use it to program a website. Maybe we can
yeah, we should do that.
I was like, I just learned about a program that you just type in code and magic happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good idea. So I don't know personally of any one single website that captures all of the different types of rental links, like data. I'm trying to think. I think if you went into, I know if you go into Airbnb, sometimes you can set some settings, because I have listings on Airbnb that are long-term and short-term. And sometimes you can pull some data from Airbnb directly, but that takes a little bit more effort as far as data mining and setting looking for 30-day stays or longer on Airbnb. But there isn't one single site that I know of that has all of it in one place.
Okay.
Anna, what was the second website you had shared?
AirDNA.
AirDNA. Okay, thank you.
And there's both free and paid on AirDNA too. So just on the free, they'll try and get you to do the paid subscription, but the Rentalizer, which is the tool that gives you the approximate Airbnb rental value, that's on the free version. So you do the free version and see if that does everything that you want before you sign up for the paid version.
Agreed.
I also actually came across an interesting website called Rabbu, R-A-B-B-U. Rabbu, R-A-B-B-U. And what they do, they actually look for deals specifically on Airbnb. They scrape Airbnb and they look for opportunities there. And they also have a free and a paid version. So you may want to check that out.
Okay, so that's more doing an analysis of properties that are sitting, that maybe it's a landlord that may be willing to sell. Is that what you mean, Kevin?
Yeah, basically, yeah. What they do, I think the way it's done, they actually reach out directly to Airbnb landlords and put them into their database and kind of act as an intermediary. So they charge, a commission, on that to the landlord. And they also charge you a subscription fee. But this way, they already go and collect all the Airbnb statistics. They have the invoices. They have the profit and loss statement. So you already kind of have a package ready to go if you're interested.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the give and take with some of these tools is, they help cut your time in researching data, but they don't do the extent of that. That either takes money or more time on your part to collect that. So I guess it depends on what you have more of, whether it's time or money. Thank you for that information, though. So if no one else has any questions about Rentcast, I'm going to shift to Forewarn. This is an app I use all the time. I don't know that a lot of agents, at least that I've spoken to, I know for Virginia agents, for the Virginia Association of Realtors, we get this for free. You can pay for it as well. Forewarn is essentially an app where it does if you have someone's phone number or even with a name, people don't realize you can actually put a name in as well. It'll tell you about that person. It will tell you their criminal record. It'll tell you past addresses, past phone numbers. So this is a really good tool. One, if you're just an agent in general and you have someone that reaches out to you off of the internet and you have no idea who this person is, I use Forewarn to kind of check it out to make sure that I'm not meeting someone that I may not want to be meeting with. I do other things too, so don't worry. But I also use Forewarn a lot for my own personal rental properties when I get information. I hope you guys don't hear my washing machine. When I am getting rental applicants that come in, I check everyone through Forewarn because when I do our personal rentals, I have them fill out a pre-screening form. It's a Google form that I have online. I send them the link. It's free to them and ask for some basic information. And I basically put them through Forewarn to get an idea of okay, who am I dealing with? And it's come in handy sometimes where I've come across some folks that once they do the full background check, it does line up with Forewarn. But this is a great tool. It's also good if you know someone's phone number and maybe it's a landlord and you know that they have multiple properties. You can put in their phone number or their name if you know some information like where they're from, like what city or what state they're in. And you can pull up their addresses for some of their other properties. If you're like, okay, I know this landlord has multiple properties and maybe I want to try to go after some of these properties, and you can do some research in the background about the different properties that the landlord owns. So like it says, run phone numbers before showings, see public records and criminal records. And it's also great for vetting sellers and tenants in general, which is what I do. Has anyone used Forewarn, or did anyone not know that Forewarn was a thing?
Yeah, you can also use it for expires and FSBOs.
Correct. It's a great way to skip trace is what they call it, information for someone if you're trying to find addresses and if you have a name and you're trying to find phone numbers. And it's free to a lot of us agents. Again, depending on where you are, you have to check with your association to see if it's available to you. But I think there is a nominal fee if it's not available through your association. ChatGPT. And I recognize there are lots of there's Gamma, there's Claude and Gemini. I use ChatGPT because I'm a creature of habit. I recognize different AI systems have better information than others. I think I heard at a training recently that Claude does better prompts for other AI. I like to use ChatGPT as a research assistant to analyze information. So again, you can use it to summarize complex terms for clients. If you get multiple offers that come in, you have to be able to take ChatGPT offline, because if you leave it online, it does push that data to the bigger brain in the sky. But there is a way to basically make your ChatGPT private, so you can upload offers that you get on properties, and you can essentially have ChatGPT analyze the offers and put together a list of pros and cons to just save you time. I will put a disclaimer that you should always double check the information because AI can be wrong. Analyzing deals and comparing strategies. So something that I've started to use ChatGPT for in analyzing deals and comparing strategies is if you yourself are an investor, or if you have an investor that you're working with, is to get them to write out their buy box, whether it's for you or for your investor. A buy box, for those of you that don't know, is essentially the characteristics of the type of investment property that you or your investor client are going after. So, is it, we want 3 bedrooms, 2 bath in a particular place that needs light renovation, that maybe has a single hip roof or is brick exterior, whatever that looks like. you can put that into a Word document. And then when you're looking on a website like Zillow, in our case, we can do it on MLS as well if it's an MLS listing. And you can actually download the photos, take some of the statistics from the listing, upload the buy box, take all of that and upload it into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to analyze the listing information and analyze the photos for you and to compare it to the buy box and give you a score of how close that property aligns with the buy box that you've provided. I know some people that do on a scale of like 1 to 10. And if it's 7 or over, they basically have their agent take a look at it, or they themselves as an agent will go ahead and take a look at it. And so that is one way to quickly analyze. The time is in downloading the information, but once you download the pictures and you have your buy box written, you can basically funnel, like pump several properties through ChatGPT and have it do the analysis for you and let you know like which properties fit either you or your client's buy box within minutes instead of you going through all the pictures and trying to do the analysis yourself. The other thing that I like to use ChatGPT for is to do market analysis. Like I said, I invest out of state, but if you're looking in a particular city or county for yourself or for an investor, you can have ChatGPT do research, like deep research, or even just regular research, which basically ask it questions like what new businesses have come into the community within the last 2 to 3 years, which projects are, have been proposed and approved as far as businesses to come into the city. What have the rental rates been over the last number of years? What are the projected increases in population, or if the population's increasing or decreasing? So if you put together these key questions, and I have it like in a Word document, you can pick a market and basically upload those questions to ChatGPT and have it give you an analysis of the market to see if that's a market that you might want to go and start looking for as an investment opportunity, whether it's here in your own market or in another market. Again, anything with ChatGPT, I do always ask it to provide me references for where it got the data so I can go back and double check it because it could always be wrong.
I like the way that you're using it. One of the things I've noticed with ChatGPT, and I'm sure most people who've used ChatGPT notice this, is it tends to be overly positive. Mm-hmm. Right? When you ask it questions, it tends to be more positive than it should be. And so if you just ask a question like, "Hey, I've got this, I've got these parameters. Do you think this is a good market?" The answer is yes, way more than it should be.
Yeah, sometimes you have to train it. I've noticed that as well. And sometimes if I tell it to be a seasoned investor that is very critical of a market and wants to make sure that it is the right market, or if you know a famous persona that's like would be overly critical of something, you need to ask it to take on that persona or take on that characteristic. And then, I mean, I'm not saying it won't be still somewhat positive, but it tends to change its answer when you tell it how to think.
Nice. I like that.
I tried ChatGPT and all these other AIs for my local market here. Actually, Anna and I are in the same market, but I tried it for Northern Virginia and for Prince William County, where I'm at, and also Manassas, where I live. And sometimes it tends, and you will be surprised, sometimes it is right on. For example, I can ask it, "Hey, do the research for this particular subdivision." If you go very granular, it may not give you that answer, okay? Or if you go granular by a street, by a block, or by a subdivision name. But typically, if you go on the level of a county, it will go and find MLS or board statistics. So kind of be careful. It can hallucinate, and a lot of times it will give you generic answers. And it will also oftentimes will refer you, "Hey, go and contact a local professional because I can't find that information." So don't rely on it. Real estate agents are going to be in business forever.
Yeah, that's why I ask it to specifically tell me, like whenever I ask it for anything, is please cite the sources of where you got this information from. And you're right, sometimes I swear the sources it provides are fake. Like I click on the link and I'm like, this doesn't actually exist. But most of the time, it does.
It's some cake recipe. It will send you to a cake recipe or something. That's crazy.
Yeah, so all of this, I say take it with a, proceed with caution. That's why I said, like, I use ChatGPT. My husband and I were getting a special use permit from one of the towns that we were working in because we bought a single family home that didn't make sense as a single family home. So we wanted to convert it into a duplex. We took the city's master, like 20-year plan, and we uploaded it to ChatGPT, gave it the parameters of what we were trying to do and what we wanted. And we asked it to basically create an outline that we could present to the city council, using marrying the two, like their priorities versus what we were trying to accomplish. But I did ask it to specifically tell me which pages in the city plan it was referencing to pull that data so I could go back to the plan and just go straight to those pages. But that made it exponentially faster than me reading 300 pages of city plan and trying to pull the data out myself. So I will say proceed with caution, just double check your numbers before using it. And then, like I've said before, you can use it to draft write-ups, whether it's for a regular property or in the case of an investor-friendly property. It just helps take the guesswork out. Like, you can tell it to be an investor-friendly agent and write this and gear it towards investors, and it'll take all the keywords and tricky phrases that investors like to hear or read about when they do their write-ups. So when their agent does their MLS report to find properties, it'll pop up if their agent knows how to use the keyword search in the MLS. We're trucking along. NAR RPR, which is the Realtors Property Resource. This is something that we all have access to if we're part of the National Association of Realtors. A lot of people don't realize this website is a thing. It is kind of like our version of the MLS, and Zillow had a baby. I don't know how else to describe it. But you can log in, you can find information, and it's not just specific to your area. Like with Bright MLS, for instance, we're limited to some of the parts of the East Coast. NAR RPR, I've used it to look at properties in other cities, in other counties, in other states, and it pulls data, market data for you. It pulls a little bit more data than Zillow does. Sometimes I find that it doesn't pull as much specific data as Bright MLS does. Like, I'm not able to pull, at least I haven't figured out. So if someone has how to use it to pull documents that are attached to a listing, like in Bright MLS, I can go in and I can pull down the documents that only agents can see. I haven't figured out how to do this in NAR RPR for other counties and states, but it is a great tool to look at properties, to research markets. You can create market reports from it to do an analysis of certain markets. And you can also set filters to do searches. So this is one of those websites where you can do searches for like foreclosures or pre-foreclosures. They actually have those key features that you can click on the filters and actually look for distressed properties, not just in your own city and state, but in other cities and states if you're looking for investment properties elsewhere. And it's free, like I said, it's all.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
How accurate do you find it? I've run a lot of RPR reports, and you always double check. And when I do double check, I just feel like they're a little ambitious on what they're reporting.
Yeah, when it comes to like market analysis specifically, I guess I use it as a starting point because I've noticed that too. Because sometimes it just takes whatever public data is available. And if it's a property that's had work done, I know I had this happen with a listing that I was going for, and it was not accurate at all because it didn't take into account all the updates and renovations they had made. So I use it as a starting point. And it helps me for me, if I'm looking for properties within the DMV, I will look in Bright MLS first before I look in NAR RPR for data, I'll say, and for running certain reports. But if I'm looking in other states that I don't have access to that information and where Zillow doesn't quite give me what I'm looking for, I look in NAR RPR to get some more data, and then I dig in from there. But I think it's still a good tool that most agents don't know about that they have access to.
I think it's a good tool. It's just a little ambitious.
Yes.
I think there is a reason why, for example, our Bright MLS, which is the second largest MLS in the country, I believe, does not have an auto valuation feature because you're always going to be better off to have a kind of a manual analysis. But there is a way around it. You can go take Zillow, you can take RPR, You can go take a Redfin evaluation, and you can actually average them out, and you can see, that's going to be quick and dirty for you. So you don't have to go into the, very detailed CMA if you want to. But if you run 3 or 4 automatic evaluations, then average them out and see where they are and what's the variation is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good starting point. Like
Good
I said,
idea.
oh, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, it's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I take it with a grain of salt because even in those evaluations, I have found like public records are not always updated. The counties don't always do a good job of updating their public records. So yeah, I had one listing where like they valued it on all these different platforms in the like 700s. And it was like, that's not right. But it didn't take into account that they had finished the basement or done these other things. It was all permitted work, but the public records weren't updated correctly. So the valuation ended up being significantly higher than a lot of those websites were putting. So like with anything, I keep putting the disclaimer out there. It does take some human element to make sure that this information is accurate. These tools are just there to help you be faster, more efficient in some cases, and just do, just get stuff done faster and less overwhelming in some cases. All right. So these are other tools that I also use that you may not realize are out there. The cashflowbreakfastclub.com, that is actually, it's local to the DMV. There's other chapters. This is the group that got me started in real estate investing. You can sign up for a free account. The meetings are free too. If you're ever in the area, I would say go to Meetup. I host one in Arlington. I know there's one in Fairfax. There's one in Montgomery County. They're all free. It's kind of a 12-step program where like the first session, and you can jump in at any time, but session 1 starts off with like the very basics of jumping into real estate investing and saving for a down payment. And then as you proceed through the chapters, you get into, short-term rentals, midterm rentals, tools that you use to manage those kinds of things. That's my plug for going to the meetings if you're around. But the cashflowbreakfastclub.com website, you can sign up for a free account, and then there's a resource tab that has free calculators that you can go in and utilize them, whether it's to analyze property, if you yourself are an investor and you want to figure out like what your financial independence number is and kind of lay out the plan for yourself for how many doors you want to buy, you can get that there. I love the calculators. I use them all the time. Fastpeoplesearch.com. I know it's going to sound creepy, but it is a website. It's similar to Forewarn, but this is a website that you can go to and you can use for free. And if you know some basic information about a person, like, Anna Bialek lives in Virginia, you can put in that name and it'll do a search where you can basically find someone. It'll tell you like, this is that person's name. These are all the matches. It'll tell you the ages so you can narrow it down. So I have actually used it to skip trace for people, or, maybe I lost someone's address that I know that I wanted to send them a Christmas card and I know that they live in a certain area, because I've tried to look them up in, say, Bright MLS. But sometimes the ways that the names are recorded in Bright MLS, the name doesn't show up, at least for me. Maybe I'm not smart enough to find it, but I use Fast People Search to pull up information on people. And it's pretty accurate. I've put my name in there. I'm like, oh, look, it knows that my husband is my husband. It knows my phone number. It knows a couple of my email addresses. So that's a resource to find people with trace information looking for landlords or for owners of certain properties. So sounds like someone's not muted. Sorry about that. DealCheck.io. This is another free resource. You can download this to your phone. It's an app. And it basically does what a lot of the free like calculators. So like on Cashflow Breakfast Club, those calculators are like on the website, you type in numbers and it looks like a spreadsheet. DealCheck.io is an app you can download to your phone. And you can type in some parameters and it'll spit out the numbers, I'll say the rental ratios and calculations for a deal. So you can do a quick analysis to see if that deal might be worth pursuing. My husband uses it and he really, really likes DealCheck.io. He's an engineer by trade. So he, of course, sat down with like the spreadsheets we created for deal checking and then DealCheck.io and plugged in all the same numbers to see how close they were. And they are Brian approved. DealCheck.io does a very good job of lining up and doing the calculations that like our deal check spreadsheet does. So it's a good app to play around with and use for running your rental numbers and your calculations for deals to see if it's a good option. Biggerpockets.com. It's similar to Cash Flow Breakfast Club, but on steroids. Bigger Pockets is one, it's like the biggest, it's like the granddaddy of real estate investing education. They have books, they have podcasts, but biggerpockets.com itself, you can sign up for a free account. There is a paid account as well. You can sign up for a free account. You can use their calculators on there as well to do like deal analysis. You can use it to find if you're an agent, you should have a network you can tap into. But if for some reason you're looking in a market you're not familiar with, you have the option to do a search for investor-friendly agents in that area that have actually been vetted through Bigger Pockets. So they are indeed investor-friendly agents that have actually done probably deals and own properties themselves. There's also forums and blogs that you can join and you can do keyword searches through just to find information, find people, find vendors. It's a great resource tool that I use when I need to find certain information in certain areas, especially if it's not in my market specifically. I have properties in Akron, Ohio. I don't know everything about Akron, Ohio. I go to this forum and like if I have questions about the city, if things are going on. And then if you don't know, HUDuser.gov, this gives you can go to HUDuser.gov and there is a part on that page where you can go in and you can see the section. It's for Section 8 specifically, but by zip code, you can go in and you can see what the rates are. So if you are considering a property that maybe you want to put Section 8 tenants in, or you have clients that are like, hey, I want to do Section 8 type tenants and you want to provide rental rates or what is being paid out for Section 8 housing in certain areas, you can go to HUDuser.gov. I will give the current disclaimer that due to the government shutdown, it is not being updated regularly, but it was updated at least as of September. So the data on there is still fairly recent, but it doesn't get updated until the government opens back up. So these are all tools that I use. There's a plethora of other tools. When we get to, I have only like 2 more slides left. So when we get to the end, if anyone wants to share tools that I didn't mention that they absolutely love, I would love to hear about them because this is as much about me learning as it is about sharing with you guys. So yeah, so we're going to wrap it up. If you've never used any of these tools before, don't be overwhelmed. When I first started this, it was like drinking through a fire hose. So I would say pick 1 or 2, start exploring them, start playing with them, put in your own address to figure out how to use it. And then when you start talking to your investors in the future, now you can pull out these tools and kind of have another feather in your cap, another tool in your tool belt where you can explain to them how you find this information, how you run your calculations, how you skip trace people. Like when you can speak investor lingo, it puts you like steps ahead because they realize you are actually an informed investor savvy agent and not just an agent that says they're investor savvy and just pushes paper. No offense to those that do, but if you're here, it's because you want to learn how to do more. And then if you want to drop your email in the comments, I did create a cheat sheet that has a list of all of these websites and tools. So I can send that to you if you put your email in the chat. And then my last slide, if you want to stay connected with me, there's my Instagram. I have a podcast called the Agent to Investor Podcast where me and another agent from Maryland basically talk and invite guests. They're way smarter than us to talk about real estate investing and to talk about what we've been through as newer agents learning how to do real estate investing. We talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, like SWAT breaking down one of the doors in one of my rental units. That's all there on that podcast. And then the Cash Flow Breakfast Club I mentioned earlier, my husband and I host the Arlington chapter with another friend of ours named Sean. Our next meeting is November the 19th. If you want more information about that, you can shoot me a message either on Instagram or you can email me or text me and I'll send you the link. Otherwise, you can find it on Meetup. So that is the end of my presentation. I've still got like 15 minutes, so I finished a little faster than I had hoped. Does anyone have any questions or does anyone have any tools that I didn't mention that they would love to share with the group? Because I would love to learn more. And I see Kevin raise his hand because that's the only thing I can see on my screen.
Uh, in addition to True People Search, which is a free website, there's also another site that I found. It's called Fast People Search, uh, also free. I think they use the same data. You need to play with them, kind of see the difference. One list, and I can't remember which one, lists the last date when the number was used. The
Mhm.
other doesn't. But one of them shows primary number,
Mhm.
assuming that is a higher probability, number that you can reach that person, most likely phone, cell phone. So I've seen data on one that is not on the other. So that's why you need to kind of really play with them. And if you start using both of these sites regularly, you will start seeing the difference. Okay, so fast people search and true people search are kind of complementary in my opinion.
Yes, I agree. And then I will say, I try to keep this training broker agnostic, so check with your broker to see what they offer. I know in our brokerage specifically, they offer the skip or the do not call list registry so that you can go in and also plug that in. Because my disclaimer for that is, as licensed real estate agents, we can get in trouble if somebody really gets a bug in their butt and we call them and they're not on the do not call list. There are some standards that we are held to, that like if they weren't licensed agents, if they were just wholesalers that were not licensed or, calling to find deals, they might not get their hands slapped the way that we do. So I will also say whatever numbers you get off of these websites, do your due diligence to make sure they're on not on the do not call list. When they are on the do not call list, then I know some people will go personally and go knock on the door. That's not my jam. I am more of a postcard kind of person, so I will send a postcard, and that takes a little more time, but it has worked out. I've sent out postcards to people that were on the do not call list, and that's how we picked up our last two off-market properties in Southern Virginia, was with postcards. Um, so yeah, and these are just a few of the tools. There are other tools that are paid tools that we utilize as well. But those require more of a monetary investment. Like Deal Machine is one that we use, which is similar to PropStream, which also pulls a lot of this information, and then can also it just pulls more in-depth information, pulls all their criteria, and then helps you generate postcards that you can mail out to these people. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? I love that everyone's dropping in their information. Thank you guys for coming. Does anyone else have any other tools they want to share? If not, I can give you back, I don't know, like 10 minutes of your life. Going once. I'm auctioning this off. Going twice. All
Quick
right.
question, Anna.
Oh,
I actually kind of intrigued by the cash offers
mhm.
programs. Okay, what are you seeing there? Wholesalers and flippers who are, advertising cash offers. But I'm more interested in it from a perspective of advertising it for the listing purposes for real estate agents. For example, I know that Mark Spain, which is a big company down south, basically just overwhelms the highways with billboards, cash offer. You're driving to Florida and they start like in Southern Virginia and go all the way to Florida and Georgia. So what are you hearing about that on the investment side, using cash offers and turn it into a listing opportunity?
Uh, I guess I'm not sure what you mean. Like you mean like as a like you're calling them. I don't know that I completely understood your question.
Okay, so Mark Spain, real estate,
Yep.
and some other big, companies out there use cash offer as a kind of a gateway
Okay.
to advertise, get a phone call, and
Okay.
then convert it into a listing because they will not be able to offer
Okay.
them full market value on a cash offer, but
Got
it's
it.
still an opportunity. What are
Okay.
you hearing on that?
Okay, now I understand your question. So it is I mean, I'm gonna guess that that company, I don't know them well. I haven't researched them. They probably also have an investor arm as well. So if it was me personally, if I offered that, I mean, I do have private money lenders. I have a HELOC that I use to buy properties. It would be a fantastic way to get people to come in because yes, there are some people, it's usually distressed or there's something going on in their lives that they need a quick offer. They don't want people in their houses. Maybe it's privacy, whatever the case may be. So they will call you and then you can have that discussion with them. And in a lot of cases, I know they are able to offer some sort of cash amount. It's usually pretty low. and it's a numbers game. So they may actually get someone that'll accept the low cash offer that makes it a great deal for whoever the agent is that put out that advertising. In other cases, if the person's like, no, that's too low for me, they may be able to convert it into a listing. And if they have a big enough network, I've seen it different ways. They have a network of investors that then they can then sell it, create it as a listing, but sell it off to an investor and then double on the deal, because a lot of times these investors will then ask them to be the listing agent. I feel like this can go in so many different directions, because then the other options, I've also known some companies and agents that offer that. But if the person doesn't have the money to make renovations, and that's why they want the cash offer, sometimes they will offer to fund the renovations for a fee and then create a listing out of it. And then they collect collect the cost of doing the renovations plus an additional fee for basically being the project manager to oversee those renovations. I don't know. Does that answer your question? I feel like it could go in lots of different directions. I just don't know what their specific model is.
There's also a somewhat shady operation down south. At least it seems shady to me. They try and get around the requirement that you have to be a realtor in order to help somebody sell their house by creating a LLC with themselves and the buyer. So they create an LLC for the purpose of selling the house, and that way they can sell the house. So it starts off as we'll buy your house for cash, and then they look at your house and they go, well, this is what we could offer you, and it's some ridiculously low amount. And they say, well, we could do more if we do it this way. And it's creating an LLC where they will assist you with selling your house, and they have some nationwide network of whatever. I know this because we're trying to sell a house in Florida, and I had conversations with these folks, but that struck me as being a little borderline in terms of trying to just avoid the requirement that one be a realtor in order to help somebody sell a house.
Yeah, I have heard stuff like that. This is where the term creative gets an icky name, because they call it creative creative financing or creative deals. And because I know in the sub-2 community, for those of you that don't know, sub-2 is a term that's used for someone that is essentially taking over another person's mortgage, but the mortgage stays in the original owner's name, but you take the deed of the property. I have heard because people are concerned with the due on sale clause, and if it ever gets exercised, what some people do, something similar, they create an LLC and put the owner of the mortgage as a minority stakeholder, so that they technically still own the property. So I know people do that all the time. I agree with you, William. That's not I know it's skirting the system. It's not technically illegal, but not something I would personally practice.
Are subject to valid in Virginia?
I mean, yeah, as long as the bank does. The biggest factor in sub-2, or I'll say the biggest risk in sub-2, is the lender calling the note due, because there's a due on sale clause in the contract. And if the lender gets wind that the property was sold, they may call the loan due on sale. And so people try to find ways around it. But in most cases, what I've heard from people, because there's quite a large subject to community here in Northern Virginia that's tied to a gentleman that's like the subject to master. If you look him up online, his name is Pace Morby. So it is feasible. It's not illegal here. It's that the risk is that the bank will find out and will want the loan basically paid off all at once.
Usually not in their interest to do that, but they, they can, but it's usually not in their interest to do that.
You mean the bank?
Yes.
Correct. If you're paying the loan, it becomes an issue if the person that buys the property stops making the payments, and then the bank realizes something squirrely is going on. But if the buyer is on the up and up and they set it up correctly and they have a third party collecting payments, you're right. It doesn't usually behoove them unless they're in a pinch. I've heard some banks, when they're okay, we want to call this money back because the interest rates are, 6%, and a lot of them are at 2%. They may go looking, but it doesn't happen often.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's you probably want to avoid those real low interest rate. Anything with a low interest rate on it is not going to be, that'll be dicey.
Yeah. Well, and that's why like I heard actually Pace Morby speak a couple weeks ago. And he was saying, like, to get creative is they create these LLCs or like a trust where a trust where the owner is on the trust and and that way their name is still tied to it legally, even though they don't actually own the property. They find creative ways to do it. So as long as I guess people are getting paid and everybody's happy with the deal.
Yeah.
So all right, guys. I think that's it for today. You get 5 minutes back instead of 15 minutes back for your life. But if you guys ever have any questions, please reach out. If you guys ever have ideas or if there's topics related to real estate investing that you want us to discuss or cover, I'm happy to do that. Send them my way because I'm always looking for ideas because I don't want to feel repetitive and I want to make sure I'm giving you guys information that's helpful to you. So let me know what else you guys want to talk about.
Thank you, Anna. This was awesome.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks.